Ladies and gentlemen, if there's a morally superior, highly educated Democrat that stumbles upon this segment, just simply answer this question. Why is a man serving 4 years in prison? And I 100% oppose the stupid message board that was very harmful that I warned everyone about in 2018. You can see on my website, I was the first person in media, if not one of the first, in all of media to say that message board was completely absurd. And I debated one of the people pushing the message board. It's on my website, hagoodman.com, long before the Daily Beast and others were talking about how harmful or dangerous it was. I was saying it was those things and more, that nobody should listen to a message board. And that was in 2018. But how can a man serve 4 years in prison for walking alongside, having law enforcement officials escorting the man throughout the building? The exculpatory evidence in the form of video footage was released by Tucker Carlson. The attorney for that man and for many other prisoners did not have access to the footage. 41,000 hours of footage, most of it is nothing happening. Because it wasn't the Battle of Antietam, Democrats. It wasn't Pearl Harbor. It wasn't, if you had $1 to $2 billion in property damage and that wasn't a problem for democracy, how can you say that that day was this, this affront on democracy? You had 19 lives lost, 14,000 arrests, and I support why people demonstrated that day. I support the cause of why people demonstrate. I support law enforcement, very much so. I'm all for body cam footage because the body cam footage almost always exonerates the police officer. Sometimes bad things are the official mistreats the citizen, that's true. But almost always it exonerates. That's something that you don't see, that media doesn't really tell you. But if you look, there are YouTube channels where you could see the body cam footage. And it's almost all, actually every video on that channel is, oh my God, these officers risk their lives. But if you had thousands of injured law enforcement officials that summer, and yes, the cause for why people demonstrated it was noble. You had a building in flames and a CNN journalist saying fiery but mostly peaceful. And you have one person serving 4 years? I don't even know if there's anyone that entire summer serving 4 years. I think there are a number of people who are serving far more because lives were taken, unfortunately. So you have people who took people's lives, who were not peaceful. But again, they delineate between the peaceful demonstrators and then the people who weren't peaceful. But there were peaceful demonstrators there that day. There's no line drawn across the sand between peaceful and not peaceful in terms of that day in January. It had 4 or 5 who lost their lives. That on that day lost their lives, and they were supporters of Trump. But Trump never told anybody to commit any crime. People did things on their own free will. Democrats don't understand the concept of free will. By the way, speaking of free will, if you're willing, please join me for the live stream tonight. It's 6:30 p.m. right now. I'm doing this. Probably be around 9:30 p.m. Pacific. Okay? About 9:45 p.m. Pacific. So 9:30 p.m. Pacific time. Be here tonight for the live stream. 9:30 p.m. Pacific time, ladies and gentlemen. And you have a situation where people are going to be let out of jail or prison. They're going to be, their plea deals are going to be reversed because they're going to say, hey, wait a second, I want this expunged. I was let into the building. I was forced to plea. This wasn't Pearl Harbor. See, here's the issue. And hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'll be here for the live stream tonight, 9:30 p.m. Pacific. If you want to read my writing on the Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, and other publications, go to hagoodman.com. Here's the problem with media. This is why nobody, like 70% of Americans, don't trust media. How can you say it's like the worst atrocity known to mankind or the greatest assault on democracy when people were let into the building? Why? I'm wondering if somebody could explain, if one of the top Hollywood executives, the filmmakers who are just, oh my God, Trump, why were people allowed into the building? Why? This will free people. And again, you had people being bailed out by Democrats. You had hundreds upon hundreds of arson incidents. You had cars burnt. You had police cars. You had police stations. You had federal buildings. You had the White House. So much so that the White House was targeted in May of 2020, and not a word from the same people who talk about an assault on democracy. These are Lincoln Project, Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld talking points. You're either with us, you're against us. It's an affront on democracy. These are esoteric, idealistic, philosophical issues. The DNC primary is the antithesis of democracy. Democrats wouldn't know democracy if it was right in front of them, staring them in the face. They wouldn't know what it was. They don't understand what democracy is. They cheat Bernie Sanders, blame Russia for informing us that Bernie was cheated, then blame Trump for things he didn't do, then accuse people in a McCarthy-era Red Scare. They've created a new Cold War. President Obama said the 80s want your foreign policy back in 2012. Now it's, oh my God. And it was a moral imperative to vote for Trump. We're 90 seconds to midnight, according to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, closer than ever to the end of the planet. But again, it's like, I don't think people really understand. When you don't like Trump, you say he lies. Nobody lies more than the people who dislike Trump. And that's the kind of amusing reality of all of this. The greatest liars in American politics are not Trump or people around Trump. Sorry. If you've heard that, you've been lied to. The greatest liars are the people who try desperately to make you despise Trump because they can't simply point to his policies because his policies are objectively better. The economy was objectively better with Trump. Record low unemployment with Trump, with real wages up. We have real wages down now and inflation through the roof still. And we have a never-ending military conflict in Europe, directly because Biden and Democrats and apparently Europe didn't care. Well, there were countries in Europe that tried even more than Biden to create some kind of peace deal before the hostilities took place. And then they go back in time and they blame Trump for what happened in Biden's administration. It's like, this is hilarious. Trump warned you of everything. And then you see the ladies at The View and others like, oh, well, you didn't listen to us. You didn't vote Democrat. Now you're suffering. It's like, well, no. People are suffering now economically because they voted Democrat. The concept of, oh, you're voting against your interests. You're definitely voting against your interests if you vote Democrat. If you're against never-ending military conflict and you want a better economy. If you want a better economy, don't vote Democrat. Okay? They've run the country into the ground in terms of the economy. 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserve pumped into the economy, and then they say, oh, well, you have to focus on the planet. I mean, their lives, Democrats only preach and pontificate and make absurd leaps of logic. The policies stink. You can look at crime, homelessness, everything. It's running rampant. Credit card debt's through the roof. They pumped $10 trillion into the economy, pretend they were like so noble after they pushed to end economic activity. So, anyway, the point is he was allowed to roam free. He wasn't a domestic, okay? He was the same type of individual who committed crimes all throughout that summer. And I support why people protested peacefully that summer, but I don't support the $1 to $2 billion in property damage. The fact Kinzinger and others don't shed a tear for all the thousands of law enforcement officials who were injured that summer, but only pretend to care in January says a lot about them. Hit subscribe. Be here tonight, 9:30 p.m. Pacific for the live stream. Thank you. 9:30 p.m.